So I just wanted to say, along with respect comes when we're working with First Nations communities and we're asking for elders' knowledge or things, being respectful of that and offering the tobacco or making an offering of some sort. And just reading the information here, consider a time you felt respected. I remember one time I was invited by Douglas College to speak and help them develop some curriculum around an Indigenous type led program. And so I did this, I completed it, and we went on our merry way. And I think it was a few months later, and I was at the Aspect conference, and a lady from Douglas College, which I sorry forgot her name, um, gifted me with a blanket saying, we were trying to track you down to give you this. And I felt so respected. I didn't give it any thought. I just thought I shared my knowledge and I was quite happy to help them, and I carried on. But to be gifted that blanket, which I still have today and carry with me quite frequently, it was that was a time that, wow, did I ever feel respected? And so it's keeping that in mind when we are working with Indigenous people and Indigenous communities, to respect that. And if we're asking for knowledge and sharing, then that they are, that we be sure that we are gifting them something, for their knowledge. And that's important to keep in mind.
Thanks so much, Corinne. I love that. One of the comments in the Menti that really resonated with me was trying to remain curious. And I think that curiosity is certainly one of the pieces that I've really valued as a settler coming to this country, and um, learning about Indigenous people in community, and being open to understanding what's going on for them in any particular context. So I really value curiosity, but I think it's really strongly tied to respect, because when you're curious, you're open.
Sorry, one piece that I'll highlight here too, just building off what you were sharing, was this being patient, right? Being patient with people who are trying to express themselves, but also being patient with people who are trying to understand, right? It takes time, and the decolonizing process is a process for everybody. So let's move forward. Thank you everyone for sharing your thoughts. We've got one last bit that we'd like our invited guests to speak to, and that is on Indigenous-led opportunities. In our research, opportunities just was the most commonly stated item across job seekers, people who are currently employed, service providers, and employers, like the need to have decent work, work that is needed and necessary in the community, work that can be done without having to, move to different locations. All of those things came up over and over and over again. Also, like, give us a chance, give us a chance. That sort of language was used in several instances as well. And so this will be sort of our focus for the last block of time we have with our invited guests, and then we'll do one more breakout group. So I'll turn it over to Peter, but if anyone had thoughts, comments, concerns, you can share them anonymously in the Menti here.
So maybe I'll start with Corinne. I just want to ask you, what do you think cultural safety looks like in the workspace, and how important is that cultural safety to your clients?
Well, for me, it's welcoming them into my space and explaining to them, introducing myself and letting them know who I am and that I'm Indigenous from this area, and asking, who they are and who's their family, and let them share their story if that's what they'd like to do. Just making them feel welcome. Possibly, like in my office, I have some native designs and native things. I have sweetgrass. I have different things. So just to have things there that makes them feel comfortable. And I know sometimes, because clients coming in to see me have to come through a different space to come to me, they need to meet with reception. And it really hurts my feelings when someone makes a derogatory comment about the person maybe coming in, or who they are, or what they may be. It's it seems to come a lot of times from the non-Indigenous community, understanding our First Nations people. First Nations people, some are very well educated and some are dealing with multiple barriers. They may not come in quite represented, dressed in a nice way. They may be struggling. And it hurts my feelings when someone kind of gets down on them because of maybe the way they look or the way they act, or just sort of labels them right off the get-go. And I work more with them, sharing their stories and listening to them. And if it's a different help they need, then I try to find them the help they need. Maybe I'm not the one that they need to be seeing right now, but I can certainly help them find who they need to be with. And I think that's important. Again, it's understanding, where are they coming from and what it is that they want, and where are they going. It's around just making them feel comfortable and letting them know that they are being heard and that you're interested in what they have to say, and be able to get that information of what's going to be the most help for them at this point. Some people come in, they're highly educated, they've graduated high school, they know exactly where they're going, and it's just a little support they need to get on their way. But sometimes other people need a little bit more than that, and it's just gauging who are they and where are they coming from and what is it that they need, and making them feel comfortable.
Thanks a lot. Diana, you'd mentioned in the chat that judgment is really the factor that can really come into play. But I'm wondering, what do you need in a workspace to feel safe culturally as a person, as an Indigenous person?
I guess it's, again, just understanding the culture, understanding who a person is, understanding or getting to know the person. Like, I'm a non-judgmental person. I don't care what's happened in your past. I don't care what's happened, yesterday. I'm all about the here and the now and your future. That's all I care about. I'm not one to judge for anything like that. And I would expect the same when it comes to employment. I'm I'm kind of an open book person. I will say, certain things. I myself am a recovering addict of 6 years next month. So if I say that to an employer, sometimes they judge me for that and I don't get employed. But I'd rather be honest with them than not be honest with them, just because I want people to know who I am. I want to know that I went from a bad life, one unfortunately that I kind of chose, to where I've come today. It's, I mean, judging is just judging is really bad, and I feel for those. When I worked at Cabela's, I was here in Abbotsford, I should say, I was judged because I looked like a white Métis girl with tan skin. And we had a lot of people from India and Pakistan and Iran and all that kind of stuff, like all over there. And I found a lot of people were judged because a lot of their cultures, they don't wear deodorant. So they would smell, a little bad. I didn't care about that. That wasn't me. I mean, I've gone days without wearing deodorant and I know I smell bad, you know. But for, like, their culture is really hard gone because it's kind of like slavery for them. And I kind of feel the same way about our culture, is that we're kind of slaved. It's,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks. Thanks. I want to just go back to Corinne, because I want to ask you, in that you're working in the field, how can we create opportunities within rural places, for Indigenous people to be able to move forward in employment?
Well, I think for me, I was actually just over at what we have an alternate school here in Vernon for youth that need a little bit more help than just through the regular school system. And in their hallway, they had posters of Indigenous people who were firemen, policemen, lawyers, admin clerks, healthcare workers, so on and so forth. And I thought that was so welcoming to see that, if we can display maybe pictures or stories of others that have gone before us, that sort of gives you that incentive, and makes that welcoming happen. And I think if you can, I always feel that if I could return to school and become educated, well, anybody can. And I think it's sharing my story of how the struggles maybe that I had and how did I get to where I am. And I also talked to some of my clients even about coming into this field of work, because we don't seem to have a lot of the younger people coming this way. And I'm not going to be around forever. So I think that just displaying good luck stories or posters or pictures or and being knowledgeable too of the employers within the community. Who are these employers? What is it that they do? Understanding. And so I do a lot of what do you call? I go to the place of business. For example, Kingfisher here in Vernon builds boats, aluminum boats. So I've gone and I've toured their building and I've talked to the people that work there, and I get them to walk me through the process, and they walked me through their whole organization, all the buildings, and showed me how things happen and how a boat can come from a flat piece of aluminum and to the other end. And here's this beautiful fishing boat all painted with all the accessories and everything on it. So I think for us to work with employers is understanding the employers as well. And so when I send someone to Kingfisher, I know exactly what kind of work they're going to be doing, and I know what that process looks like. So for me to be knowledgeable as well, to be able to share with my clients what's out there in that real world and not be sending them into the unknown, as I'll say.
I'd say that what you've hit on is a really beautiful part of rural living, is that you do have relationships with businesses and employers because you live in the community. And so
That's
you've
right.
had that opportunity to build that knowledge and that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's important, to understand who is in our community and what is it that they do, so that we can understand when we're sending our clients to a place of business, we know what they're getting into. We understand. And it also gives me the sense of, is this an employer I'd want to send my client to? Maybe not. So, there's just understanding and sharing again, and knowing who everybody is and what it is that they do, I think is important. And what is the education? What kind of education do they expect people to come through? Because in a lot of cases too, I see a lot of people getting hired quickly, but they're let go just as fast because they may not come with maybe the skill set that the employers are looking for. And employers are, really not taking the time to train them. Maybe they don't have time to train them. So if they're not catching on quick enough, then they're let go. So again, I think it's important to understand who are these employers and what is it that they're looking for, and how can we be successful with them, and how can we work with them to ensure that our First Nations clients are getting the respect and the the respect that they need, and being able to grow, and how are they going to be trained, and how are they going to be treated. So I think it's important to just always connect with employers as well, and service providers within the communities.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for your wisdom. And thanks, Diana, too. Wonderful. I'm going to pass it back to Cassie now.
Yeah,
we're
I
gonna
think
need...
just before we move on, there was an interesting comment in the Menti about a self-employment program. And so we talked a lot about opportunities and with employers in the area, but I wonder if we had any final thoughts about self-employment as an opportunity for Indigenous folks. Maybe open that up to either Diana or Karine.
Well, within our community here, we have community futures. So I work closely with Work BC here in the community and Community Futures. And if they're looking at self-employment more so, then I work with the other organizations to help support this transition. We ourselves, under my umbrella, do not really fund self-employment, but we can certainly, offer training that might lead them into self-employment, or pay for workshops that might help them become self-employed. So there are some things that we can do, but it's not my forte, really. So we normally will refer them to Community Futures. And again, it's sharing that knowledge and understanding what it is that they do and what kind of services can they offer. And not just Community Futures, but there's All Nations Trust. There's, the Aboriginal Tourism umbrella and different organizations. So it's just being aware again of what's out there in the communities and areas, surrounding areas that they can work with.